A scion of many worlds. Conversation with shadowy organizations done and dealt with. Jasper spends a few more minutes with his people and waits to be called back into the arena. That they've named him the Excessive Urthani makes him snort. "Is everyone ready?" the announcer shouts, the Foza easily making herself heard to the thousands upon thousands of spectators. "We've had an incredible day of battle and blood. We've seen a crack army. We've seen a monster hunter at her mountain clan best. Now we test the commander of this shocking force. Now we test the Excessive Urthani. Raise your voices for Jasper Emmanuel Skitterway. Blue, Martial Master of the Star Seekers." The announcer continues and Jasper walks out of his entrance to the roaring approval of the breakaway empire. He draws his swords and clashes them together above his head in a mighty din that is greatly appreciated even as he subtly turns the weapons so they catch the light along their wavy blades. Of course we can't make it easy on our guest. Where's the sport in that? So back by popular demand is an old favorite, here for her final fight one way or another. Scream your love for the burn scale. Let Amala know you love her. Burn scale is an appropriate nickname for the woman. She leaves a blackened trail as she slithers in, and her immediate presence creates a heat distortion. Not something you'd expect from a Hydro Nagasha, until you remember that they can internally heat themselves in ways other Nagasha can't. A way to keep toasty warm even in the most frigid depths. This one apparently knows how to ramp it up to obscene levels, and she's outright burn off any semblance of normal clothing. But the literally red-hot chainmail she's wearing, likely just to keep herself decent rather than protection when the metal is that soft. She has no weapons, likely doesn't need them, as just getting close to her is death for everything but a fire arumenta. He visibly considers his swords and then grins before tossing them down to impale into the ground. He hangs his cloak and armor off them, stripping down to his pants as he channels the axiom within himself with a singular goal: resistance. Resistance to heat and sheer blunt force trauma. Looks like the Excessive Urthani is a clever one. He knows metal will just burn him now. "She's a loud one, isn't she?" Jasper jokes to Amala as they approach each other. The old gladiator shrugs in indifference. Her predecessor was better, knew how to make her voice carry without putting too much force into it. Think the new girl will figure it out? She hasn't in 3 years. I don't think she will at this rate. Amala notes casually. "So what's with you?" "Pardon?" he asks, deciding that if she wants to talk while the screaming hype machine above them is just going on, then he may as well. "I've met Urthani before. You're nothing like any of them beyond the most basic. Did you come out of one of the labs here in the country? You look like you've been combined with an animal and fed other experiments," she remarks. "No, I'm just weird." "Well, yes, that goes without saying. Of course you're weird. But how? Why?" "The story is longer than we're going to get to talk," Jasper says with a shrug. "But long story short, I'm very, very weird. That I believe, if you have the sense to surrender, then I'll get it out of you then. You're the first person to actually tell me that surrender is an option I can go with," Jasper states. He knew it was an option. He understood that after studying the history of the arena, but no one had directly told him at any point that the fights were to anything other than death. "You're joking," Amala states flatly. "Somewhat, I figured it out, but you're the only person to outright tell me I have an option beyond killing and dying," Jasper remarks with a toothy grin. "I think I'm going to strangle someone." Amala begins. "Begin!" The announcer calls out and she snaps forward, burning so hotly that it's outright impossible to pick out her details. He janks away with a snap of his wings and then blasts as much of the arena sand at her as he can. It's reduced to glass before it's even in arm's reach and does nothing to slow her down. He can't get rid of the heat, but can he turn it against her? As he retreats away from the event horizon of burning, he pulls at the air, mentally thanking his first 6 recruits for making so much use of water manipulation. He gathers up a large ball that he compresses as hard as he can until it's the size of a marble, and still pulling in more compressed water out of the air that he also folds into an axiom other space within the marble. Dodge, dodge, and dodge as he stays out of reach. She's burning a massive spiral pattern into the floor as he slowly leads her around and gathers his weapon. He then launches the marble of water at her, aiming right for center mass. It was a bad idea. The explosion of steam hits him like a freight train and sends him bouncing across the arena floor and into the far wall. He's lucky that he managed to partially catch himself and prevent the whiplash or impact from giving him a concussion. The cheer of the crowd is so loud it ruffles his fur. They like that. He lands back on the arena floor to find it's now fused cobblestones, melted together from the efforts of Erumenta builders. The sand covering is outright stripped bare and plastered against the walls. Also, his things are embedded in one of the walls as well. Annoying, but it could have been worse. It could have gone into the crowd. He really hadn't thought that one through. That is one crazy Earthani. But it looks like both our fighters are more annoyed than injured. The announcer blares out, and she's right. Amala is both upright and is clearly unimpressed with his stunt. She blurs at him, seemingly pushing off the air as much as the cobblestones in order to give her traction against everything she can get. He jolts to the side to stay out of burning range. He needs another method of attack that won't feed her or hurt him. Something to snuff out this candle, and the moment the thought crosses his mind, he smirks. He needs her focus broken and in a position where the heat can't help her, only hurt her. The rippling air around her moving up and the wind pulling at him as he moves causes him to smirk. He has another idea, but this an arena, so rather than just dumping it on her and going for a kill, he's going to showboat and give her a chance to surrender. Also, it's more fun this way. A horrible idea in an actual fight? Yes. But a fun thing to do in a friendly match where surrender is an option? Also, yes. Tell me Amala burn scale. He begins his voice projecting hard so it carries. What do you know about the formation of weather patterns? What does that have to do with anything? The announcer asks instead. There's a slight tilt of frustration in her voice as Jasper clearly has the effect she's going for without the screw-up of it being too blaring. I speak of storms. Do you know what turns a breeze into a blistering wind? Where a summer wind turns into a thunderstorm with blasts of brutal lightning? Do you know how tornadoes are born? He calls out as he leads Burnscale into a pattern. Her combat style is a brutally effective defense that also serves as an offense. She doesn't need to be careful. She's a woman piloting a tank against some idiot running around on foot. She's not worried about him, or anyone else for that matter. Yes, the steam explosion had annoyed her, but she's clearly not afraid and more likely seeking to punish him for his impudence, which is just so very useful for him. He keeps up the retreat. He's given his boasting hint. He's played to the crowd and built their anticipation. Now, he has to deliver. The dodging leads into tighter and tighter burning circles as a spiral. The heat is hemming him in on all sides as he prepares himself, sending his axiom up and spreading it into the higher atmosphere, and he holds onto it with several strings and keeps a firm grip. He'll need to pull hard and fast to make this work. Tighter and tighter they pull with a sense of smug self-satisfaction starts emanating from Amala. Then he snaps his wings out and allows the heat to carry him up and out of reach and pulls down on the cold air above. He directs it down hard and then lets go as things slam into each other. Letting go of the illusion of control and simply riding the storm he's created, he smiles as he's carried up into the sky. It's almost relaxing to feel the winds of the world twist around him. Humbling and awe-inspiring to be in the grips of the power he unleashed by merely encouraging nature to step in. Then the architects of the breakaway empire show their brilliance as the arena is unscathed and unhurt by the literal tornado at its heart. Massive energy barriers erupt from Kutha statues that protect the entire building, and also zoom in to the images of both Jasper, who appears to be in a state of higher unity, and the baffled and resolute Amala, who's gotten her hands on his swords. An attempt to stabilize herself had her grab at them and tear them from the wall. She was now using the flats of the blades and twisting them as needed to catch the wind and try to maneuver herself closer to him. So the tornado isn't enough? Tough girl. He'll have to find another answer. The crackling in the air gives him an answer. "Tell me, young Nagasha, do you know from where lightning is born?" he asks, with his voice projecting loud and strong for even the crowd to hear as he starts agitating the air. Things begin sparking and crackling even more as the winds howl and rub together. He encourages it. Now that he's opened the way, natural static buildup is accelerated. She hurls his swords at him as spinning discs of death. He twists to avoid impalement and grabs the handles as they pass by, leaving him with his arms twisted back. Lightning strikes the blades and he focuses the energy to surround the blades before bringing them down. Twin shockwaves slam downwards and Amala twists out of the way, despite having lost what little lift her streamlined form is capable of. Shit, no matter though. There's lines of his own axiom leading to them. It takes a heartbeat to recalibrate the moving waves. "You missed," she taunts up at him. "I wasn't aiming for you." He counters with a lie and her eyes widen and she turns to see the shockwaves carry his axiom into the core of the tornado. It scatters the wind down bellow and the tornado seems to howl in pain even as it dies. Finally, he's gotten around her ability to counter him as she visibly panics. He tucks his swords together in a reverse grip in his left hand and he dives after his now falling opponent. Turns out being very good at burning things and swimming doesn't prepare you to fly if you're suddenly dropped from hundreds of meters up. "And they're both falling! This could be it!" the announcer bellows out as Jasper dives for Amala. The image of the overlarge Mothman diving for the Serpent Woman illuminating the displays from the statues as they crest in front of the sun, silhouetted by its sheer light as he reaches out for her to stop her fall and save her life. He grabs for and gets the thinner part of her tail. He sends his axiom down it to reinforce her so she doesn't snap like an overstretched rubber band as he brings out his wings to slow their fall. He's pleasantly surprised to find her channeling her own axiom to aid his efforts and reinforce his wings even as she pulls herself up to get a bit further away from the ground. She lifts up fully and he wraps his around her waist as they slow and slow. The crowd has gone certifiably insane when they touch down and he lets go of her tail to let her slither away. "Well, that was bracing. Care to continue?" he asks her and she stares at him. The crowd goes dead silent at his words. "What?" "Well, I needed to put out that insane heat somehow. It took a tornado to do, but I did it." Jasper replies with an absolutely insane smile on his face. "You did all that just to get me to stop with the heat." Amala screeches in incredulous fury. Her rage isn't helped when he nods to confirm it. "I am a sergeant of the undaunted. The more incredible the obstacle, the more audacious our solution. There is nothing that cannot be outfought, outlasted, outthought, or outmaneuvered. Every trial leads only to greater triumph," Jasper announces proud and strong. Then he plucks one of his swords out of his left hand's reverse grip to hold it normally in his right. "Now then, shall we continue? I'll loan you a sword if you like." The crowd is utterly silent as they wait for her answer as she stares at him before her face hardens into resolve. She's on him before he can react, and as she goes for his swords, he throws them far away. Now the sharpest weapons are at the ends of his hands and feet. This doesn't slow her as she darts in and out, using her lower body as an anchor to let her dash about like a whip. even as she uses the tip of her tail to come around and flick at him in hopes of getting him off balance, or to pin him long enough to wrap him in her coils and crush him. "You are more frustrating than any of my daughters," Amala curses at him, as she has to back away from his flickering claws to avoid being gored by the sharp edges. "Thank you, I do try," he says cheekily, and she growls at him. He thrusts his claws at her several times as she tries to get either a solid hit on him or a grip on him. Her tail is warded away by his foot claws, and she retreats hard with a thin line of blood blossoming over her left arm as he suddenly darts forward. Then his right hip is suddenly in the grip of her tail, and she quickly pulls on him to slam him into the arena floor as she twists around. She pulls at him again, only to find he's dug his claws into the floor, and he begins to pull on her tail with slices opening along her side as he pulls her towards him. "Enough!" Amala shouts, and he stops. "I yield. I've done everything, and you've only gotten more and more determined. You win." Jasper pulls away from Amala and flicks the blood off of his claws. The crowd cheers, and Jasper holds out a claw glowing with axiom to Amala. She pauses and then reaches for his hand, and he sends the more rejuvenating energy through her, and her pain numbs as her bleeding tapers off. The wounds don't immediately close, but she undergoes days' worth of healing in moments. What a display of grace! What generosity! Our winner heals their opponent in a final act of dignity. What an incredible fight! The announcer bellows, and the crowd cheers once again.